The whispers started late one night, echoing through social media like wildfire. Posts vanished as quickly as they appeared, and before anyone could confirm what really went down, one shocking rumor took over the internet. Mendeecees threw his own mother out of the house after she slapped Yandy. At first, no one wanted to believe it. How could a man so deeply rooted in family loyalty, who spent years fighting for balance between the two most important women in his life, take it that far? But as screenshots, voice notes, and eyewitness stories began to surface, the pieces started forming a picture more chaotic than anyone expected. What began as a simple family visit turned into an explosive night of insults, accusations, and one slap that shattered every bond in that house. According to sources close to the family, it all started when Judy Mendeecees' outspoken mother showed up unannounced at his Atlanta home. Tension between Judy and Yandy had been brewing for months, hidden behind forced smiles and family photos. The public saw peace, but behind closed doors, the air was thick with resentment. Judy allegedly felt that Yandy had changed her son since his release from prison, less attentive to his roots, less dependent on his mother's advice, and far more protective of his wife's opinions. On the other side, Yandy was tired of the constant interference, the subtle digs, and the guilt trips. That night, when Judy came knocking, Yandy didn't hold back. Neighbors later claimed they heard shouting before the door even closed. Yandy's voice rose first, sharp and trembling with years of bottled frustration. "You can't keep coming into my house disrespecting me, Judy. This is not your home." And just like that, the conversation spiraled into chaos. Judy, feeling humiliated, fired back with words that cut deep, reminding Yandy how she stood by her son when he was locked up, how she kept this family together when others moved on. The shouting escalated, and Mendeecees tried to play mediator, standing between two women who had long stopped hearing each other. Then came the moment no one could have predicted: a sudden motion, a loud smack, and a stunned silence that hung in the air like broken glass. Yandy froze, eyes wide with disbelief. Mendeecees' face went pale as he realized what just happened. His own mother had laid hands on his wife. What followed was pure chaos. Yandy stormed toward the door, demanding Judy leave immediately, but before she could, Mendeecees did something no one expected. His voice, low and trembling, cut through the shouting. "Ma, you gotta go." The room went still. Judy thought he was bluffing, but he wasn't. For the first time, Mendeecees stood his ground, not as a son, but as a husband. Within minutes, what was once a family home turned into a battlefield of broken loyalties. Phones started recording, friends started calling, and by morning, the world knew that the Harris household had imploded overnight. Fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. Was this the end of their unity? Did Mendeecees really throw his own mother out for Yandy? Or was there more to the story than anyone knew? As insiders revealed new layers of betrayal and heartbreak, one thing became clear: this wasn't just another family argument. This was war. And nobody was walking away clean. The night after the fight, the Harris house was silent. But that silence was the kind that comes after a storm, heavy, tense, and waiting to break again. The front door was still cracked from where Judy had slammed it behind her, and the sound of that slam seemed to echo in Yandy's head over and over. She sat on the couch, her hands shaking, trying to process what had just happened. Mendeecees paced the room, phone in his hand, scrolling through missed calls from his sister, his cousins, and even his manager. Everyone wanted to know what went down. Social media had already picked up pieces of the story. Fans were posting clips, guessing what could have triggered such a violent moment. But the truth, raw and ugly, was still trapped between husband and wife, neither ready to speak it aloud. Yandy's voice broke the silence first. "She slapped me, Mendeecees. Your mother slapped me." The word mother came out cracked, half disbelief, half anger. Mendeecees stopped pacing, eyes fixed on the floor. "I know," he said quietly. "I saw it." He looked up then, guilt heavy in his face. But behind that guilt was something else. For years, he had tried to balance the two women who shaped his world, but that night, that balance had been shattered. "I can't let anyone disrespect my wife like that," he added, his tone steady but his heart racing. Yandy turned to him, her eyes glassy. "And she's your mom, Mendeecees. I know how much she means to you, but what she did, I can't pretend it didn't happen." Her voice shook, not from fear, but from heartbreak. She had spent years proving herself to that family, swallowing pride, biting her tongue, keeping the peace. And yet, in one slap, all that effort was erased. Mendeecees sat beside her, running his hands over his face. "She thinks I changed," he said finally, "that I'm not the same son she raised. Maybe she's right, but I changed because I grew up, because I got a wife, a home, a life outside her control. Outside, cameras were starting to flash. Neighbors whispered on their porches. A woman across the street even live-streamed, hoping to catch a glimpse of Judy leaving in her car earlier. The internet was already piecing together timelines, and the hashtag Mendeecees family drama was climbing fast. Inside, Yandy grabbed her phone and saw the chaos unfolding. "Look at this," she said, showing him comments flooding in, some calling her out, others defending her. "They're saying I provoked her, that I've been turning you against your mom." Mendeecees shook his head. "Don't listen to them. They don't know the truth." But the truth was messy. It wasn't just about a slap, it was years of tension boiling over. Judy had never fully trusted Yandy, not since the early days of Love and Hip Hop. She thought Yandy wanted control, thought she had built walls between her son and his roots. But for Yandy, it wasn't about control, it was survival. Being married to a man with deep family loyalty meant walking a tightrope, and she had done it for years. That night, though, the tightrope snapped. A knock came at the door. Both froze. Mendeecees went to open it, expecting maybe a cousin or a neighbor. Instead, it was Judy's sister, Aunt Brenda. Her face was tight with anger, her voice sharp. "What did you do to my sister?" she demanded. "She called me crying, saying her own son kicked her out." Mendeecees took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Auntie, she slapped my wife. What was I supposed to do?" Brenda looked past him at Yandy. "You always knew how to stir things up," she hissed. "Since day one, you've been trying to take him away from his family." Yandy stood up slowly, her jaw clenched. "That's not true. I've done nothing but respect her. But I'm not going to let anyone hit me in my own home." Brenda's glare softened for a second, but pride held her back. "You're gonna regret this," she said finally before walking off. The door shut behind her, leaving the couple surrounded by the weight of what had just been set in motion. Now it wasn't just between them and Judy. The entire family was picking sides. Cousins started posting cryptic messages online. One of Mendeecees' brothers even went live, saying, "Man, we don't turn on moms. I don't care what she did." That live got over 50,000 views in under an hour, and fans were eating it up. Inside the house, Mendeecees and Yandy sat in the dim light, both drained. "It's out there now," Yandy whispered. "They're gonna spin it how they want." Mendeecees nodded. "Let them. I know what happened. I know what I saw." Still, deep down, he felt a crack inside him, a guilt he couldn't explain. He loved his mother, but the line had been crossed. Yet a small voice inside him kept asking if there was another way he could have handled it. The next morning, the drama only deepened. Judy went live on her own Instagram, her face red and eyes swollen. "I raised that boy by myself," she said to her followers, "and this is how he repays me." Throwing his own mother out because of that woman. Thousands joined the stream within minutes. Her words were sharp, emotional, and full of pain. "That girl been controlling him for years," she said. "Ever since she got that ring. He forgot who was there when he had nothing." The live spread like wildfire, picked up by blogs, gossip pages, and fan accounts. Within hours, Yandy was trending again, but this time, not as a hero. She was being labeled the manipulative wife, the woman who broke the bond between mother and son. When Mendeecees saw the live, he rubbed his temples, exhaling hard. "She's making it worse," he muttered. Yandy stood beside him, scrolling through comments. "Look at this one," she said bitterly. "A real man never chooses a woman over his mother. That's what they think of you now." Mendeecees looked up at her. "They can think whatever they want. I'm done living for people." But his words didn't stop the storm outside. Friends started calling. Producers from the show reached out, asking if they could capture the drama on camera. This could be a powerful storyline, one executive told him over the phone. Mendeecees hung up without answering. He didn't want his family torn apart for ratings. But it was already too late. The story had gone public. Blogs were reporting that police had been called, that Yandy and Judy were pressing charges against each other. None of it was true, but once rumors start, they don't stop. That night, Yandy sat alone on the porch, the air thick with heat and regret. She whispered to herself, "I didn't want it to go this far." Inside, Mendeecees watched through the window, torn between anger and sorrow. He picked up his phone, hovered over his mother's number, then put it down again. He couldn't call her yet, not after everything. Instead, he typed a short message. "I love you, but you went too far." He stared at it for a long moment before pressing send. Judy saw the text hours later. She didn't reply. Instead, she posted another story, this time showing her suitcase. The caption reading, "Sometimes even your own blood turns cold." The comments exploded. Some fans begged her to reconcile, others encouraged her to stand strong. Meanwhile, Yandy and Mendeecees watched the fallout unfold. Knowing that one family argument had turned into a national spectacle, yet neither could shake the feeling that it wasn't over, that the real confrontation was still coming. And as night fell again, a new call came through. One that would change everything. Judy's friend claiming she had proof that the slap wasn't as it seemed. Yandy froze, Mendeecees' heart skipped, and both knew that whatever came next would decide the future of their family. The next morning began with headlines that made both Mendeecees and Yandy's phones vibrate nonstop. Gossip blogs had turned their private nightmare into morning entertainment. Mendeecees disrespects his mother for Yandy, family feud explodes, screamed one headline. Another read, Judy's shocking confession, what really happened before the slap. Every comment section was on fire. Fans were divided, some calling Mendeecees a traitor, others saying he finally did what any real husband should do. Meanwhile, Judy had vanished offline after her last post, leaving everyone guessing where she'd gone. Yandy, tired and red-eyed, scrolled through her messages in disbelief. They're calling me a homewrecker, she whispered. How did we get here? Mendeecees didn't answer at first. He just stared out the window, replaying that night in his mind. Because people love drama, he finally said. They don't care about truth, they just want something to talk about. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled slightly. Deep down, he wasn't as steady as he looked. No matter how hard he tried to convince himself that he'd done the right thing, there was a hole inside him where his mother's voice used to be. And now, with the world watching, that hole was starting to ache. By afternoon, producers from Love and Hip Hop were calling again. They wanted to get ahead of the story. One even suggested bringing Judy back for a face-to-face scene. This could clear everything up on camera, they said, pretending it was about healing, when everyone knew it was about ratings. Yandy slammed the phone down after that call. I'm not turning this into TV, she snapped. This is my life. Mendeecees nodded slowly, but a part of him knew it wouldn't matter. The show had built its empire on real pain packaged as entertainment. Whether they filmed it or not, the public already had front row seats. A few hours later, Judy finally broke her silence. She didn't post a video this time. She went live with a well-known blogger who'd been covering the story since it broke. The interview was raw, emotional, and full of accusations. I didn't slap her out of hate, Judy said through tears. I was defending myself. She pointed her finger in my face and disrespected me in front of my son. Any mother would have reacted. The blogger nodded sympathetically, feeding the narrative. So you're saying it was an accident? Judy hesitated, then whispered, I didn't mean for it to go that far. The clip went viral within minutes. When Yandy saw the video, she felt her stomach twist. She's rewriting the story, she said, pacing the kitchen. Now she's the victim. Mendeecees was silent, scrolling through comments that painted him as the ungrateful son. Fans were flooding his DMs with messages like, you only have one mother, and you'll regret this when she's gone. He tossed his phone on the counter. I can't keep doing this, he muttered. It's like no one cares what actually happened. Yandy stopped pacing, her eyes fierce. Then maybe it's time they do. Maybe it's time we tell the truth. But telling the truth wasn't so simple. Their version of the truth was tangled with pride, pain, and years of unspoken resentment. Still, Mendeecees agreed to sit down for a small podcast interview with a friend who promised to handle it respectfully. They thought it would be low-key. They were wrong. Once the episode aired, it was clipped, twisted, and reposted everywhere. In one part, Mendeecees said, I had to protect my wife. Out of context, that single line turned into a social media war. People accused him of choosing sides, of abandoning the woman who raised him. The pressure got to him. He stopped answering calls, avoided family events, and started spending hours at the gym just to clear his head. Yandy noticed the distance growing, but she didn't know how to bridge it. You're shutting me out, she told him one night. He didn't look up from his phone. I just need space, Yandy. Everything's loud right now. She frowned. I'm not the enemy, he sighed. I know. I can't be the peacekeeper anymore. The word stung because that was exactly who he'd always been, the man trying to keep everyone from falling apart. Now even he was cracking. A week later, a new bomb dropped. A cousin leaked a group chat screenshot showing messages between Judy and another relative from the night of the slap. In it, Judy had written, I lost control. I shouldn't have hit her. The internet erupted again. Some fans took it as proof that she was guilty. Others said it showed she was remorseful. Either way, the damage deepened. Yandy read the messages quietly, her eyes softening. Maybe she really didn't mean it, she said. Mendeecees shook his head. That doesn't undo what happened. But part of him wanted to believe it. Then came the unexpected twist. Judy showed up at the kids' school. Yandy found out through a teacher who called, concerned after seeing an argument between Judy and one of the staff members. Apparently, she'd come with gifts and wanted to see her grandkids, but the school, aware of the ongoing drama, refused to let her in without Yandy's permission. Yandy rushed there, heart pounding. When she arrived, Judy was still outside, standing by her car with tears streaming down her face. "They're my grandchildren," she said as soon as she saw Yandy. "You can hate me all you want, but don't keep them from me." For a long moment, neither woman spoke. The noise of cars, the laughter of kids leaving class, all of it faded. "Judy," Yandy began quietly, "I never said you couldn't see them. I just needed time." Judy's voice trembled. "Time for what? To turn my son against me?" Yandy's eyes narrowed. "You slapped me, Judy. What do you want me to say?" Judy's face broke. "I made a mistake, okay, but you've been acting like I'm the enemy since day one." Yandy's tone softened slightly. "Because you never gave me a chance to be family. It was always a competition." The argument didn't end in shouting this time, it ended in exhaustion. Both women stood there, too tired to fight. Mendeecees arrived minutes later, his expression unreadable. He looked from his mother to his wife, both standing in the parking lot like strangers. "We can't keep living like this," he said quietly. "This has to stop." Judy wiped her face. "Then make it stop, son." And she turned, walking away before he could answer. That night, Yandy tried to comfort him, but he was distant again, trapped between guilt and duty. "I don't know how to fix this," he admitted. "If I go to her, you'll think I'm choosing her. If I don't, everyone says I'm cold." Yandy reached for his hand. "Maybe you stop trying to fix it. Maybe you just start being honest." He looked at her then, and something in his eyes shifted, a mix of pain, clarity, and surrender. Outside their home, the press was still circling. Every move they made was captured, analyzed, and exaggerated. But inside, the real story wasn't about fame or headlines. It was about a man torn between two loves that were never meant to collide. And even as he tried to hold them together, the cracks kept spreading, threatening to break more than just the bond between mother and son. Because somewhere deep down, both women wanted the same thing: to be seen, to be valued, to be loved, but neither knew how to share him. As the night stretched on, Mendeecees sat alone in the living room, scrolling through old photos, one of him and his mom at his first studio session, another of Yandy holding his hand when he came home from prison. He realized both women had saved him in different ways. And now, somehow, he had lost both at once. He whispered under his breath, "How did we get here?" But no one answered. Only the quiet hum of the city filled the room, and the unspoken truth lingered that the real battle hadn't even begun yet. The days that followed were a blur of phone calls, statements, and sleepless nights. Both sides of the family were trying to control the narrative, but every attempt only made things worse. Judy's friends were giving interviews, defending her actions, while Yandy's camp tried to stay silent, hoping the noise would die down. It didn't. By now, every gossip outlet in Atlanta had picked up the story. It wasn't just a slap anymore, it was being called the betrayal that broke the Harris legacy. And behind all the public drama, the family itself was splitting apart like a fault line. Mendeecees' sister, Samantha, went live one night, saying she was done staying quiet. Her tone was sharp, her words direct. "Y'all don't even know half of what's been going on," she said, staring into the camera. "My mom been trying to be civil, but that woman, she's been disrespecting her for years. This ain't new." Within minutes, comments flooded in. Some called her brave, others accused her of stirring more chaos. Then Samantha dropped the real bomb. "Mendeecees called me after it happened. He was crying, saying he didn't mean to throw her out like that." The internet exploded again. Fans demanded proof, receipts, screenshots. Samantha posted none, but she didn't need to. The damage was already done. Yandy saw the live and felt her pulse race. "She's lying," she said, gripping her phone. He wasn't crying. He was angry, but he wasn't crying. Mendeecees just sat there, jaw tight. "Let them say what they want," he muttered, but his voice was shaking slightly. "Every word they say, it just proves they don't see me as a man, they still see me as their little boy." Yandy's voice softened. "Because you always let them treat you that way." He looked at her then, and for the first time, there was a flash of resentment in his eyes. "And you think you don't," he said quietly. The room went cold. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. He hesitated, then said, "You talk about my family like you're above them. Like you don't do the same thing, trying to control me, trying to tell me who to be." The argument that followed wasn't loud, but it cut deep. "Mendeecees, I've stood by you through everything, Yandy said, her voice trembling. When you were inside, when you came out, when people turned their backs, I was the one holding this family together. He nodded slowly. And I'm grateful for that. But somewhere along the line, it stopped being about love and started being about control. Yandy stepped back, stunned. So now I'm the problem too. He didn't answer. Instead, he walked out onto the porch, needing air. Outside, he could hear reporters parked across the street, their cameras clicking softly in the dark. He lit a cigarette, something he hadn't done in months, and watched the smoke drift upward. Part of him wanted to drive to his mother's house that second, to just sit down and talk. Another part of him knew that if he did, everything he'd said to Yandy would be thrown back in his face. He felt trapped between loyalty and love, between guilt and pride. Meanwhile, Judy was planning her next move. She'd been staying with Samantha, avoiding calls from producers and declining offers from talk shows. But deep down, she was hurt not just by what happened, but by the silence that followed. She had always been the loud one, the protector, the woman who stood up for her son when the world turned on him. Now, that same son had turned her away, and the rejection was eating her alive. "He don't understand," she told Samantha one night. "Everything I ever did, even the wrong stuff, it was for him." Samantha hugged her mother, whispering, "They'll see, Ma. They'll see who you really are." But the public wasn't sure who to believe. One day they were defending Judy, the next they were calling her toxic. Yandy, tired of playing defense, finally agreed to do one interview. She sat down with a local journalist who'd covered her career for years. The setting was a soft-lit studio, neutral tones, gentle music. But the questions cut right to the bone. "Yandy, did Mendeecees' mother really hit you?" the interviewer asked softly. Yandy paused, then said, "Yes, she did. And I wish it never happened, but it did." And what hurt more than the slap was realizing it was never about that moment, it was about years of her never seeing me as family. Her voice cracked just slightly, and the clip went viral. The internet flipped again, this time in her favor. Fans started using hashtags like hashtag #ISTNWITHYANDY and hashtag RespectWives. Judy saw the clips and felt betrayed all over again. "She's playing the victim," she said bitterly, "and now the world's eating it up." She posted a short video later that night. "No tears this time, just steel. You can tell your story, but the truth don't change. God knows what really happened." For a brief moment, everyone thought things might calm down, but then a private audio leaked. It was a phone conversation between Mendeecees and his cousin from the night after the slap. In the clip, he could be heard saying, "I don't know if I can ever look at my mom the same again." The leak tore the internet apart. Judy broke down in another live session, saying, "My own son said that to the whole world." She sobbed on camera, and fans flooded the comments, begging her to forgive him. By now, Mendeecees was spiraling. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends were telling him to apologize publicly, others said to stay quiet. He didn't know who to trust anymore. "They're all using us," he told Yandy one night, voice hoarse. "Every one of them. My family, the blogs, the show, they all just want a headline." Yandy nodded, tears slipping down her face. "Then let's leave it behind. For real, this time, move out, change numbers, cut it all off." He looked at her, eyes tired. "You really think we can just run from this?" She took his hand. "I think it's the only way we survive it." The next morning, they started packing. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting, no crying, just quiet decisions. As they filled boxes, Mendeecees came across an old photo album. Inside was a picture of him as a kid, sitting on his mom's lap, both smiling wide. He stared at it for a long time before slipping it into his jacket pocket. But as they were loading the car, a black SUV pulled up outside. It was Samantha, and Judy was with her. Yandy froze on the porch, eyes wide. Mendeecees felt his chest tighten. Judy stepped out slowly, her eyes red but steady. "I didn't come to fight," she said softly. "I came to talk." Yandy looked away, but Mendeecees nodded. "Then let's talk." The three of them stood in the living room that had become the scene of so much chaos. The silence was unbearable until Judy finally spoke. "I'm not gonna lie, I'm hurt. I never thought my son would turn me away, but I didn't come here to make you feel bad. I came because I don't want to lose you." Mendeecees' eyes glistened. "You slapped my wife, Ma. I can't just pretend it didn't happen." Judy nodded. "I know, and I'm sorry, but I'm still your mother. I made a mistake, but you made one too, throwing me out like a stranger. Yandy watched them, torn between empathy and anger. You made me feel unsafe in my own home, she said quietly. Judy turned to her. I made you feel disrespected, not unsafe. There's a difference, but I'm sorry for both. Her voice cracked at the end. Mendeecees stepped closer to his mother, his heart caught in his throat. For a second, it seemed like maybe this was the moment everything would heal, but just then, a phone on the table buzzed. It was a notification from a gossip page. Already, posting. Judy spotted back at Yandy's house, family reunion or more drama. Mendeecees looked at the phone, then at both women. See, he said bitterly. We can't even breathe without it becoming a show. Judy reached out, touching his arm. Then stop letting them tell your story. You tell it. He nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling in. Yandy exhaled, realizing that maybe, just maybe, this was their last chance to fix what fame had broken. But before they could say anything else, a car horn blared outside. The paparazzi had arrived again. Flashes lit up the windows, voices shouting. Judy and are you two friends again? All three stood frozen. The peace they'd almost found slipped away like smoke. And in that instant, they all knew the story wasn't over. Not yet. As the argument spiraled beyond control, Mendeecees stood frozen, torn between the two most important women in his life. Yandy's eyes were filled with disbelief and pain, her hand still on her cheek where Judy had slapped her. The sound of that slap had echoed through the house like thunder, silencing everyone, even the kids who had been playing upstairs. Judy's chest was rising fast, her face red with anger. But there was something else there too, a flash of regret that she tried to hide. You disrespected me first, she shouted, her voice trembling. Yandy took a step back, her voice shaking but firm. No, I tried to talk to you with respect. You came at me like I was your enemy. Her voice cracked, and Mendeecees finally snapped out of his shock. Ma, what are you doing? He said, stepping between them. Judy glared at him, her voice bitter. What I should have done a long time ago. She's been turning you against your own blood. Yandy gasped, shaking her head. That's not true. Mendeecees, you know I've never, but Judy cut her off. Don't talk to my son. You think because you've got that ring on your finger, you can run my family. Mendeecees turned to his mother, his tone low but strained. Ma, stop. You just crossed a line you can't uncross. The room went silent again. Judy's face fell slightly, realizing how deep his tone cut. What line? I raised you, I sacrificed everything for you, and now you're taking her side. Yandy wiped a tear before it could fall, her voice quiet but full of pain. This isn't about sides. It's about respect. Judy laughed bitterly. Respect? You want respect, Yandy? Respect the woman who made this man who he is. I earned my place in his life before you even showed up. Mendeecees ran his hands through his hair, frustration building. Ma, you've been acting out since day one. Yandy never disrespected you. You just don't like the idea that I've grown up, that I have a family now. Judy's expression hardened. A family that doesn't include me anymore. She turned to Yandy, voice trembling. You took my son from me. Yandy's lip quivered, but she spoke softly. No, I helped him build a life. There's a difference. Mendeecees' voice cracked slightly when he said, Ma, you need to go cool off. That sentence seemed to break something inside Judy. You're putting me out? She whispered, her tone more wounded than angry now. After everything I've done for you. Mendeecees didn't respond right away. He just stared at the floor, fighting tears. Yandy took his hand, but he gently pulled away, his mind spinning. Ma, I'm not saying forever. I'm saying for now. I need peace in my house. Judy blinked slowly, as if she couldn't process his words. Your house, she repeated softly. So this isn't my son's home anymore. It's Yandy's house now. She gave a short, bitter laugh that quickly turned into a sob. I see how it is. You really chose her over your mother. Yandy stepped forward cautiously. Miss Judy, please, I don't want this. I've always respected you, but you can't put your hands on me. The room felt heavy with tension, the air thick with everything left unsaid. Mendeecees finally moved toward the door, his voice breaking. Ma, you need to leave tonight. I'll get you a car. You can stay with Aunt Beverly for a while. Judy looked at her son, tears glistening in her eyes. You're throwing me out, she whispered, over her. Mendeecees closed his eyes, his voice almost a whisper. I'm protecting my peace. The silence that followed was unbearable. Judy picked up her bag slowly, her hands shaking. You'll regret this, Mendeecees, she said softly, her voice hollow. Blood always comes before love. Always. She walked out, the sound of the door closing echoing like a final goodbye. Yandy stood still, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want this, she said, her voice trembling. Mendeecees sat down on the couch, staring into nothing. I know, he whispered, but it had to happen. That night, fans online began picking up pieces of the story. Neighbors had recorded bits of the shouting, and within hours, clips had spread across social media. Did y'all see that? Judy slapped Yandy, one post said. Others were quick to take sides, some defending Judy, calling her a real mama who stood up for herself, while others slammed her for putting her hands on her daughter-in-law. Mendeecees did the right thing. One fan tweeted, "You can't let your mom disrespect your wife like that." Another fired back, "But she's his mother. That's blood. How could he?" The internet became a battlefield, with both women trending. Yandy's name was filled with sympathy, while Judy's was flooded with criticism and confusion. By morning, both women had gone silent on social media, but fans could tell something deeper was brewing. Insiders claimed Yandy had been planning to speak publicly about what happened, but Mendeecees begged her to stay quiet. At least for now, he doesn't want this to turn into a circus, a source said, but Yandy's heartbroken. She feels unsafe in her own home. Meanwhile, Judy wasn't backing down. She called a few close friends that night and told them her side of the story. She's manipulating him, she said through tears. She's got him wrapped around her finger. I can't just sit there and let that woman destroy what I built. The situation took another turn when Yandy's friend, Kimbella, found out and paid her a visit. Girl, what happened? She asked, hugging Yandy tightly. Yandy told her everything, voice shaking. She hit me, Kimbella, in my own house, and Mendeecees had to tell her to leave. Kimbella's face turned cold. Nah, that's too much. I know she's his mom, but she crossed the line. Mendeecees walked in then, overhearing the last line. I didn't want it to go this far, he said quietly. But I can't have that kind of energy around my family. Kimbella looked at him, her tone sharp. Then you better stick to that. Don't let her come back until she understands boundaries. Mendeecees nodded, but deep down, guilt gnawed at him. He loved his mother, but he also knew something had to change. Little did he know, Judy wasn't going to take this quietly. By the next day, she had packed her things and was calling people who had connections to the media. She wasn't ready to be painted as the villain in her own son's story. They want drama, she said bitterly to her friend. I'll give them drama. And with that, a new storm was brewing, one that would pull the entire family into chaos once again. The days following Judy's departure were tense, suffocating even, as if the air itself had thickened with unresolved anger and hurt. Inside the Harris household, Mendeecees and Yandy tried to reclaim some semblance of normalcy. But every sound, every knock at the door, made their nerves jump. The kids had been kept out of the chaos as much as possible, but even they sensed the tension. Silence replaced laughter in the living room, and both adults were haunted by what had happened, knowing that a single slap had unleashed years of hidden resentment. Yandy sat at the kitchen table one morning, coffee in hand, scrolling through the latest posts online. They're spinning it again, she said quietly. People are saying you abandoned your mom. They're calling me manipulative. Mendeecees rubbed his eyes. It's useless to explain, he muttered. Everyone wants their version of the story. He glanced at her, exhaustion written across his face. I didn't want to throw her out. I didn't, but I had to protect us. Yandy nodded, swallowing hard. I know, she said softly, but people are ruthless online. Every word gets twisted. Every move gets judged. She looked down at her hands, fingers curling around her coffee mug. Mendeecees sat beside her, his arm brushing hers. We'll get through this. Together, he said. Yet the words sounded hollow even to him. The reality was messy, complicated, and full of emotions neither of them knew how to handle. Outside the house, the media frenzy didn't slow. Paparazzi began staking out the neighborhood, snapping photos of Judy arriving at her friend's house, of Yandy walking the kids to school, of Mendeecees leaving for the studio. Every movement became a story, every glance a headline. Blogs wrote scathing pieces, some defending Judy as a mother who had been wronged, others praising Yandy for standing her ground. Hashtags trended, with fans choosing sides as if the family feud was a competition. Mendeecees felt a surge of frustration and anger that he had never felt before. It wasn't just the slap that hurt, it was the betrayal, the fact that this private moment had become public entertainment. Then came a shocking twist. A voice memo leaked online, supposedly from Judy the night of the slap. In it, she said, I didn't mean to, but I had to make my point. That woman can't come into my son's life and act like she owns it. The internet exploded. Some fans took it as proof she was guilty. Others saw it as her asserting her maternal rights. The leak pushed Mendeecees into silence, forcing him to retreat further into himself. He stopped answering calls, stopped going to events, and spent hours at home, staring blankly at his phone. Yandy tried to comfort him, but he was distant, lost in a storm of guilt and responsibility. "You can't keep punishing yourself for this," she said one night, her voice soft but firm. "It's not just your fault. It's complicated. Everyone played a role." Mendeecees shook his head, staring at the floor. "I can't look at her the same way again," he whispered. "She's my mother, but she broke my trust. She broke our home." Yandy reached out, placing her hand on his. "Then let's rebuild it, brick by brick, without the chaos." He looked at her, eyes wet, and nodded. But the tension didn't ease. The storm outside was mirrored by the storm inside. The family feud had cracked open wounds that would not heal easily. Weeks passed, and each day brought a new twist. Judy began posting cryptic messages on social media, hinting that she might reveal all the secrets people don't know about her son and Yandy. The online speculation grew wild. Fans and bloggers guessed at betrayals, long-hidden grudges, and dramatic confrontations, feeding on every small detail. Yandy tried to ignore it, but the pressure mounted. "They're not leaving us alone," she said one evening, pacing the living room. "Every move we make, every word we say's judged." Mendeecees, exhausted from it all, sank into the couch. "Then we stop playing the game," he said quietly. "We stop answering. We stop explaining. We live our lives." Yet even as he said it, he knew that the family feud had already taken on a life of its own. It was no longer theirs, it belonged to the world. Then came the confrontation that no one expected. Judy showed up at their home late one night, unannounced. Yandy was startled, the kids asleep upstairs. Mendeecees felt a rush of panic mixed with anger. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, stepping between Judy and the door. Judy's eyes were red from crying, her voice trembling. "I had to see my son," she said quietly. "I can't just sit back and let this story be told by everyone else. I need to tell him myself." Yandy's hand tightened around Mendeecees' arm. "Ma, this isn't safe." "The kids," Judy cut her off. "I'm not here for them. I just need him." Mendeecees' jaw tightened. He wanted to yell, to slam the door, but a small part of him wanted to listen, to hear the mother he loved, despite everything. He sighed and stepped aside, gesturing for her to sit. The next few hours were raw, emotional, and full of confessions. Judy admitted feelings of regret, of loneliness, of watching her son grow and feeling left behind. She cried openly, telling Mendeecees that she never intended to hurt Yandy, never intended for their home to become a battlefield. Mendeecees listened, torn between compassion and anger. Yandy, watching silently, felt a strange mixture of relief and unease. The confrontation didn't fix everything, but it cracked open a space for truth. They spoke for hours, voices low, punctuated by tears and sighs. Finally, Judy stood, her eyes weary. "I have to leave now," she said softly. "But I hope you can forgive me. Someday." Mendeecees nodded, his throat tight. "We'll figure it out," he said quietly. She smiled faintly, then walked out into the night, the door clicking shut behind her. The next morning, the social media storm intensified. Clips of neighbors' surveillance cameras showing Judy leaving had already been shared online. Headlines screamed about Judy confronting her son after being thrown out, and family feud escalates. Yet Mendeecees and Yandy stayed quiet, refusing to comment publicly. Inside, they felt a tentative sense of peace, fragile but present. They both knew that the world would continue to speculate, that the family drama was far from over, but for the first time in weeks, they could breathe without the immediate tension of conflict hanging over them. Even as they tried to move on, the scars remained. Yandy noticed the subtle changes in Mendeecees, the way he flinched at a knock at the door, the way his eyes searched for signs of judgment from others. Mendeecees saw the lingering fear in Yandy's posture, the way she hesitated to speak her mind fully. Together, they realized that rebuilding their home and their trust would take more than apologies. It would require patience, understanding, and the strength to withstand the relentless gaze of public scrutiny. And just when they thought they had some semblance of calm, another unexpected development hit. A private message from one of Judy's closest friends, suggesting that she might take her story to a daytime talk show. Ready to spill even more personal details about the family feud? Mendeecees felt the old panic rising. Yandy gripped his hand, trying to anchor him. "Whatever she says," she whispered, "we know the truth, and that's all that matters." He nodded, but even as he said it, he knew that the battle between privacy, loyalty, and public opinion was far from over. The Harris family drama had grown bigger than any one person, and as the cameras kept flashing outside their home, one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of tension, gossip, and mounting pressure. Mendeecees and Yandy tried to rebuild normalcy, but every knock at the door, every phone notification, reminded them that the world was watching. Even small gestures, a shared smile, a casual conversation were dissected online, spun into narratives of betrayal, favoritism, or secret alliances. Yandy had begun journaling her thoughts late at night, scribbling down frustrations she couldn't voice aloud, trying to release the weight of constant judgment. "They're never going to let this go," she whispered one evening, staring out at the city lights. Mendeecees, sitting beside her, nodded. "Then we stop trying to please them," he said. "We focus on us." But just as they tried to close the chapter, another twist hit. Judy had secretly contacted several family friends, fueling rumors that she had been unfairly treated, that her son had turned his back on her, and that Yandy was controlling him. Snippets of private conversations leaked online, taken out of context, and fans erupted again. Hashtags like #TeamJudy and #YandyDefense trended simultaneously, making the Harris household feel like a battlefield. Mendeecees' phone rang nonstop. Every call, every message seemed to demand him to choose a side, to validate one narrative over the other. Yandy tried to shield him, but the pressure seeped into their home life. One afternoon, she found him staring blankly at the wall, his hands trembling slightly. "What is it?" she asked, sitting beside him. He didn't respond immediately. Finally, he muttered, "I can't keep everyone happy. My mom, my fans, my family, even you." She took his hand, holding it tightly. "You only need to keep us happy," she said softly. "We're the family that matters now." He exhaled sharply, tears threatening to fall, and leaned his head against hers. For a fleeting moment, they found calm amid the storm. But calm was short. Judy decided to show up at a high-profile family event, one that both Mendeecees and Yandy were attending. Paparazzi caught her arrival, the flashbulbs exploding like gunfire, and social media exploded overnight. Captions screamed about confrontations, emotional meltdowns, and impending clashes. Inside, the air was thick with unspoken tension. Judy's eyes scanned the room until they found her son. Mendeecees felt a tight knot in his chest. He had hoped the event would pass quietly, but here she was, defiant, public, and impossible to ignore. Yandy noticed the tension immediately. She touched Mendeecees' arm lightly, whispering, "Stay calm. We can't let her ruin this night." He nodded, swallowing hard. Judy's approach was slow, deliberate. She stopped just a few feet away, her gaze locked on him. "You really thought you could keep me out forever?" she asked quietly, but loud enough for him to hear. He exhaled slowly, hands clenched. "I never wanted to keep you out," he said firmly. "I just needed space for us to breathe." Judy's lips pressed tightly together. "Space? You call throwing your mother out space?" Murmurs from onlookers and flashes from cameras made the moment feel like a war. The tension escalated when Judy's friend whispered something in her ear, prompting her to step closer. "I will not be erased from my son's life," she said, her voice rising. Yandy, feeling her own patience fray, stepped forward. "And I will not be disrespected in my home," she said firmly. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Mendeecees, caught between them, felt his chest tighten. He wanted to stop the confrontation, to pull them apart, but the public gaze made it impossible. Every movement was documented, every expression analyzed. After what felt like hours, Judy finally stepped back, her eyes glistening. "You'll regret this," she said softly, her tone both a threat and a plea. She left the event immediately, and social media exploded again. Clips of the confrontation went viral. Hashtags changed to #JudyConfrontation and #FamilyFeudLive. Online debates ran wild. Who was right? Who was wrong? Who had the moral high ground? Mendeecees sat down with Yandy later that night, exhausted. "I can't do this anymore," he admitted. "It's like the world is telling me how to feel, how to act. I'm trapped between everyone." She held him, her voice firm yet gentle. "Then we create our own rules. Forget them for a while. Focus on what matters. Our kids, our home." He nodded slowly, though the weight of public scrutiny lingered like a shadow. Meanwhile, Judy took her story to friends in the media, hinting at a sit-down interview that would reveal everything. Snippets of her statements leaked, fans speculating endlessly about what she would reveal. The internet divided further, some supporting her as a wronged mother, others condemning her for continuing to stir conflict. Insiders claimed Judy had been holding on to long-suppressed anger, and that the slap was only the surface of deeper familial tensions. Inside the Harris household, tension remained high. Even mundane events, cooking dinner, helping the kids with homework, or watching a movie were shadowed by the fear of sudden leaks or misinterpretations. Yandy sometimes found herself stepping back, letting Mendeecees take calls that she knew would escalate. He, in turn, became withdrawn, avoiding family conversations and shutting off from social media entirely for brief moments. They both knew that nothing would return to normal until boundaries were clearly established, but setting those boundaries with a mother, a wife, and an ever-watchful public seemed almost impossible. Then came a message that changed everything. An anonymous source sent Yandy a clip of Judy speaking privately to a friend, revealing regret but also lingering resentment. "I miss him, but I can't forgive what she did," Judy said, voice breaking. The clip circulated online, and while it was private, fans shared it rapidly. It sparked debates and renewed media frenzy. Yandy watched silently, her mind torn between relief and frustration. Mendeecees saw the message too, his expression unreadable. "We can't win," he muttered. "No matter what we do, someone's hurt, someone's talking, someone's judging." Yandy sat beside him, her hand over his. "Then maybe winning isn't the point anymore," she said softly. "Maybe surviving is." He turned to her, eyes heavy but resolute. "Surviving," he echoed. And in that moment, they found a fragile peace of truce within themselves if not with the world. They knew Judy would return. That gossip would continue. That social media would never forgive them for living quietly. But for now, they could breathe. The Harris household remained a battlefield on the outside, but inside, a small light of calm flickered, a reminder that even amid chaos, the bond between husband and wife could hold strong, even when the past and the world threatened to tear everything apart. The fragile calm didn't last long. Just as Mendeecees and Yandy began to feel some relief, a new chapter of chaos unfolded. Judy, unwilling to remain silent, decided to enlist allies from within the extended family. Cousins, aunts, and old family friends were quietly contacted, their loyalty tested with stories of perceived betrayal, moments of disrespect, and exaggerations that painted Yandy as controlling and manipulative. Whispers turned into meetings, meetings turned into messages, and soon, the Harris family tree was buzzing with tension. Mendeecees received messages from relatives he hadn't spoken to in years, each one weighing him down with guilt and pressure. Yandy noticed him growing increasingly distant. "You can't respond to everyone," she said, her voice strained. "It's eating you alive." He shook his head, rubbing his temples. "It's not just the messages," he muttered. "It's the feeling that my mom is always going to be a part of this. Always going to haunt us. Always going to bring this drama back." She held his hand, trying to anchor him. "Then we control what we can," she said. "We control our home, our kids, our decisions. That's all." He nodded, though his mind was still spinning with what-ifs and regrets. The tension escalated further when a leaked audio from Judy surfaced online. In it, she was heard venting to a friend about the incident with Yandy, claiming she never meant to hurt her, but needed to make her understand who runs this family. Fans were outraged, some condemning Judy as toxic, while others painted Yandy as a manipulative figure who had pushed boundaries. Social media became a frenzy, with clips and memes spreading faster than they could keep up. Mendeecees found himself constantly on edge. Even when he tried to have quiet moments with Yandy, thoughts of his mother's reactions and the public scrutiny intruded. "Why does it feel like everything is my fault?" he asked one night, pacing the living room. Yandy, sitting beside him, took a deep breath. "Because you care too much what others think," she said gently. "You've got to stop trying to fix everyone else's perception. It's not your job." He paused, considering her words, but deep down, he knew the path to peace would not be easy. Then came a dramatic public escalation. Judy, feeling cornered and unheard, appeared on a local talk show, hinting at long-buried family truths and teasing revelations about Yandy's behavior. The clip spread like wildfire. Fans debated endlessly, choosing sides, analyzing body language, and posting theories about what really happened that night. The Harris household felt the immediate backlash. Neighbors called, friends reached out, and every notification on Mendeecees' phone became a source of anxiety. Yandy tried to remain calm, focusing on their children and household, but even she felt the sting of public opinion. "Why can't people just leave us alone?" she asked quietly one afternoon. Mendeecees wrapped an arm around her. "Because they're invested in drama, not truth," he said. "We can't control them, only ourselves." The couple tried to establish routines that insulated their home from external chaos, but every small victory felt fleeting. Amid the external chaos, internal emotions flared as well. Nights were filled with whispered conversations and tension-laden silences. Mendeecees and Yandy had to navigate their love, trust, and resentment in parallel with the public storm. One evening, while tucking the kids into bed, Yandy spoke softly. "Do you think your mom will ever forgive us?" Mendeecees paused, staring at the ceiling. "Forgive us? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But forgiveness isn't the point anymore. Survival is." Yandy nodded slowly, understanding the truth in his words. Survival meant setting boundaries, protecting their family, and holding on to what was theirs amidst a world eager to tear it apart. But just when they thought they had weathered one storm, another arrived. Judy began leaking selective conversations to media outlets, portraying herself as the hurt mother and Yandy as the antagonist. Blogs ran headlines like "Mendeecees' Mom Speaks Out," "How Yandy Broke the Family," and "Inside the Feud That Shook the Harris Household." The couple's home became a fortress, cameras outside capturing every moment, fans speculating endlessly. Mendeecees began questioning whether any form of peace was possible. Feeling trapped between loyalty to his mother and commitment to his wife, the emotional strain reached a breaking point one night when Mendeecees, overwhelmed, slammed his hand on the kitchen counter. "I can't take it anymore," he yelled, his voice echoing through the empty house. Yandy rushed to him, her own frustration spilling over. "I know, I feel it too. But yelling won't fix it." He buried his face in his hands, silent for long moments before whispering. "Every time she speaks, every time the world watches, I feel like I'm failing everyone." Yandy held him close, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You're not failing, you're surviving, and surviving is enough." As the couple clung to each other, the outside world continued to react, debate, and speculate. The drama between Judy Mendeecees and Yandy became a sensation online, with fans dissecting every detail, media outlets covering each development, and the family's private moments turning into public spectacle. Yet inside the home, a quiet determination emerged to protect their bond, their children, and the sanctity of their family life, even as chaos raged beyond their doors. Amid it all, one undeniable truth became clear: the Harris family feud was far from over, and every step toward peace would be met with resistance, scrutiny, and the ever-present tension of unresolved emotions. And as Mendeecees and Yandy faced each new day, one thing was certain: their love, patience, and resilience would be tested like never before. The tension inside the Harris household continued to escalate, reaching a level that neither Mendeecees nor Yandy had anticipated. After Judy's public statements and leaks, friends and family began weighing in, each with their own interpretation of events. Messages, calls, and unsolicited advice flooded their phones, creating a constant buzz of anxiety. Even small, ordinary moments were overshadowed by the looming sense of scrutiny. Every step Yandy took was measured, every glance at the kids calculated, and Mendeecees felt the crushing pressure of mediating between the woman who gave him life and the woman who shared it with him now. One afternoon, Yandy and Mendeecees were sitting in the living room, attempting to enjoy a quiet moment. The kids were napping upstairs, but the silence did little to calm their nerves. Yandy's hands trembled slightly as she scrolled through social media. "They're still talking," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Every post, every comment, they twist everything we do." Mendeecees rubbed his forehead, exhaustion etched across his face. "It doesn't matter what we do," he muttered. "They've already made up their minds. We can't win in their eyes." The following evening brought another shock. Judy, unannounced, appeared at the neighborhood grocery store where Mendeecees was shopping. Yandy, who had accompanied him, froze when she saw her mother-in-law approaching. The tension was immediate, palpable, like electricity in the air. Judy's eyes locked onto Mendeecees, a storm of emotions reflected in her gaze. "I just wanted to see you," she said softly, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and sorrow. Mendeecees took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every judgmental glance around them. "Ma, we can't do this here," he said firmly. "Not in public." Judy's lips pressed tightly together. "Why not? This is where people can see who's right and who's wrong," she said, her voice cracking. Yandy stepped closer, her hand lightly touching Mendeecees' arm. "Please, Ma, for the sake of the kids and the family, let's keep this private," she urged. Judy's eyes softened briefly, but the fire in her expression returned quickly. "I just want him to remember where he comes from," she said quietly. "He's forgetting everything I've done for him." Mendeecees' jaw tightened. "I'm not forgetting, Ma, but you can't keep crossing lines. You can't hurt Yandy and expect nothing to happen." The confrontation drew whispers from other shoppers, and phones were discreetly raised to record snippets of the exchange. Social media exploded once again, fans analyzing every word, gesture, and expression. Clips of Judy and Yandy exchanging tense words went viral, reigniting the debate over who was right, who was wrong, and how far familial loyalty should stretch. Hashtags like #Mendeecees family feud and #YandyV's Judy trended nationwide, creating a storm of online commentary. Back at home that night, the couple struggled to process the day's events. Mendeecees sat silently on the couch, staring into the darkened room, while Yandy pored over messages from friends and family, offering advice and criticism. "How do we even breathe anymore?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Everything we do is under a microscope." Mendeecees reached for her hand. "We focus on us," he said softly. "We focus on the kids, on our home, on what we can control. Nothing else matters." Yet even as they tried to reclaim some sense of normalcy, Judy's presence continued to loom. She began making more strategic moves, contacting media insiders and family friends to share her narrative in a more controlled way. The snippets that leaked online painted her as the hurt, misunderstood mother fighting to reclaim her son's attention. Fans were divided, with some expressing sympathy for Judy, while others rallied around Yandy, praising her patience and composure under constant pressure. One particularly tense evening, Mendeecees received a call from his father, who had stayed mostly silent throughout the feud. The conversation was brief but heavy. "Son, you have to figure this out before it destroys everyone," he said, his voice stern but worried. Mendeecees exhaled, frustration and helplessness mixing. "I know, Dad," he replied, "but it's like trying to control a storm that's already out of hand." The words lingered long after the call ended, echoing in the walls of the house that had once been a sanctuary. Yandy, ever supportive, reminded him that they had built a life together that was worth protecting. "Let's make our home a place of peace," she said, her eyes filled with determination. "We can't stop the world from watching, but we can control how we respond inside these walls." Mendeecees nodded, grateful yet weary. The journey to reclaim their sense of security and family harmony was far from over, and the shadow of Judy's influence loomed like an ever-present storm cloud. Amid the chaos, a quiet realization settled over them. Surviving this public and personal war would require unwavering unity, patience, and strength. Every confrontation, every leak, every viral clip was a test of their resilience. They knew that Judy's presence, both physical and digital, would continue to challenge their bond. But they also knew that together, they could withstand the storm. And as the city lights flickered outside their window, Mendeecees and Yandy held each other close, silently preparing for the battles still to come, knowing that the drama surrounding their family had only just begun. So, after everything we've just shared, the question remains, what does this all mean for the Harris family moving forward? Fans are still divided, emotions are still raw, and the drama doesn't seem to have an end in sight. Judy's actions, from the slap to the public confrontations and social media leaks, have left a mark, not just on Mendeecees and Yandy, but on everyone watching. The family is left trying to pick up the pieces, balancing loyalty, love, and the overwhelming pressure of the world watching their every move. It's a situation that could have gone quietly, but instead, it has exploded into one of the most talked about family feuds in recent reality television history. Now, you, the viewer, are part of this story too. Every like, every comment, every share fuels the conversation. Your opinions matter because they reflect the pulse of public sentiment, the reactions of fans who are emotionally invested in seeing how this family navigates the tension, the betrayal, and the challenges ahead. Some might say Judy went too far, that she crossed lines no mother should cross. Others may argue that Yandy's patience and composure were remarkable, holding the family together under pressure that most of us could never imagine. But what do you think? Who do you stand with in this whirlwind of emotions, anger, and loyalty? Consider the complexity of the situation. Mendeecees, torn between the love for his mother and the commitment to his wife, the very real pressure of public scrutiny, and the struggle to maintain a household that feels safe for his children. Yandy, caught in the middle, trying to protect her family while also defending herself against an onslaught of judgment from all sides. Judy, a mother who felt wronged, whose anger led to actions that will be remembered forever. The layers of human emotion, betrayal, and the quest for validation make this story more than just a headline. It's a study in family dynamics under extreme stress. We want to know what you think. Is there a path to reconciliation for this family? Can Mendeecees ever find peace between his love for his mother and his loyalty to Yandy? Will Judy ever recognize the consequences of her actions? Or is this just the beginning of a long, drawn-out saga that will continue to captivate fans for months, maybe years? Your voice in the comments section matters because it helps create a dialogue, a place where fans can debate, defend, or sympathize. giving life to the drama in a way that no news article or social media post ever could. Also, think about the lessons hidden within this chaos. There's the importance of boundaries, of protecting what's yours, and understanding that even the closest relationships can be tested by anger, pride, and miscommunication. Fans watching this unfold might reflect on their own family dynamics, perhaps gaining insight into how to handle conflict, how to balance loyalty with and how to navigate the pressures of external judgment when personal matters are forced into the public eye. The Harris family feud, while sensationalized, mirrors the tensions that many people experience in their own lives, just amplified for our entertainment. And while we watch, we participate. Each post, each comment, each reaction amplifies the story, turning a private family conflict into a cultural phenomenon. It's more than gossip, it's a conversation about accountability, love, and the human condition under pressure. It challenges us to think about empathy, judgment, and the ways in which our society consumes drama. Every share spreads the story further, every opinion adds a new perspective, and every like signals that you are engaged, that you care, that this story resonates. So here's what we want you to do. Like this video if you were shocked by the events, if you felt the tension as we recounted it, if you can relate to the struggle of loyalty versus self-preservation. Comment below with your thoughts. Who do you side with? What do you think will happen next? Your insight could be part of the next wave of conversation. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next update in this ongoing saga. Because as long as emotions run high and the Harris family feud continues, there will always be more to reveal. And remember, your participation isn't just about watching, it's about engaging with the story, questioning the choices made, and imagining what you would do in similar circumstances. Will Mendeecees stand his ground or seek reconciliation? Will Yandy continue to protect her family while asserting her voice? Will Judy find a way to mend the rift? Or will the cycle of confrontation continue? Your comments may even spark discussions that bring new angles and insights that the world hasn't considered. So, join the conversation. Hit like if this story shocked you, share it with friends who love reality drama, and dive into the comments to make your voice heard. We want to hear your theories, your sympathies, and your take on who handled the situation best. The Harris family saga is far from over, and by engaging, you become part of it. Every interaction you make fuels the ongoing drama, keeps the story alive, and ensures that the conversation doesn't end. Don't just watch the story, participate in it. Your opinions, your debates, your reactions help shape how this drama is remembered. So comment now, like now, subscribe to stay in the loop, and stay tuned, because the next twist in the Harris family feud is just around the corner. And trust us, you won't want to miss a single moment.